You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the immortalized podcast. Joining us via Skype is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
He is a killer, but he will be killed tonight.
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson.
Quick, suck it before the venom reaches my heart.
Wife Dork.
Oh, don't tease.
And Brad Gullickson.
And for gosh sake, watch your language.
That's not going away anytime soon.
Mouth Dork.
Are you kidding? Your guy's got a camera. Mine's got a flamethrower.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warm. Warmer. Disco.
The Disco Dork. You'll just fall asleep, and then you'll see Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny. And welcome to the immortalized podcast.
Yay!
Not happy about my quote. Not happy about my quote at all because I was struggling to find a quote. I ultimately settled on a line from Chud that Lisa and I watched this week.
Yeah.
But as you started to hit record, I was like, oh man, I need that Busta Rhymes quote from Halloween Resurrection. What's that quote? What's that quote? And I'm still looking for it. I did find a list of Busta Rhymes quotes from Halloween Resurrection.
Give us one. Give us one right now.
Trick or treat, motherfucker.
That sounds like a classic. That would have been a good one to go with. Give us another one.
Up in this, motherfucker.
Oh, I'm seeing a trend. Can you give us one more? One more?
Looking a little crispy over there, Mikey. Like some chicken fried motherfucker. Well, may he never, ever rest in peace. That was the line I was looking for.
Yay, we got there.
All right.
Podcast dreams coming true.
I saw Halloween Resurrection in the theater.
I did not.
Yay.
So, Brian, how was your weekend?
Yes, sir.
Dork?
Weekend Dork wasn't too bad. Actually, today I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I want to talk a little bit about some TV. It's been a busy weekend. Of course, we got our review cast that we're going to talk about Halloween, and of course, we all have, It Mod approved. The Night Comes for Us. We have been pushing that film for like the last couple of weeks, and it's been exciting to see other people really kind of respond to that. But also on Netflix, I want to talk a little bit about Netflix Marvel. Daredevil season 3 premiered also on the 19th.
Oh, is somebody in this Dork Cave still watching that show?
I watched it.
I know. I'm the lone warrior. I'm the lone person still striving through and still trying to watch these shows. But I want to talk a little bit about Daredevil season 3. But yeah, absolutely. But I've been enjoying it. I've actually been able to watch the first 6 episodes, but I kind of want to double back a little bit because also with Daredevil season 3, we've also had the news last week of the cancellation of Iron Fist, and also just now, as of this recording, I think yesterday, the cancellation of Luke Cage. And I don't know if I talked about it, but I finished season 2 of Luke Cage. You may hear a lot of different opinions out there on the interwebs. Me personally, I thought season 2 was garbage. Luke Cage was just not good, regardless of what other people may say. Yeah, you could say it was better than season 1, but it's just something about this show is just not hitting with me anymore. And I think a lot of it has to do with some of the choices by the actors. Now, there were some good things about season 2 that I liked, as far as like them focusing on some of the peripheral characters like Misty Knight and Shades, and even Bushmaster. I thought they really did a good job of really fleshing those characters out and giving them a lot to do. But all the stuff with Alfre Woodard, Mariah, and even Luke Cage himself just came off just way too corny. The dialogue is corny. Like it's just it's just a goofy show, and it was to me. I didn't respond to it, but I didn't really want to get into a full like Luke Cage talk. But I could definitely see, and everybody talking about this. My assumption is that they're going to do a Heroes for Hire show. That's why they canceled these shows. It could be moving to the Disney's streaming service. I mean, to me, I honestly really don't know or don't care, but I'm assuming they're going to do a Heroes for Hire TV show to try to combine those two series. But the thing, I kind of want to move into Daredevil, but I think Daredevil has kind of been the gold standard with these Marvel Netflix shows, regardless of what my other dorks may think. But I like the quality of Daredevil compared to what I was just telling you guys about Luke Cage. I like the characterization. I like Charlie Cox. I like his portrayal as Matt Murdock. I think he is really solid. I think the action is really coherent and concise in the way they shoot it and the way it's structured. There's of course they do another kind of long take hallway sequence, which is in episode 4, that is really impressive in this show. They do introduce a character, Bullseye. I don't think that's a spoiler. His character, they do try to give him a little bit of backstory. Where I'm at is at episode 6 and how it leaves off. I don't know if I necessarily buy his switch, because he's right now his name is Dex, and he's like a FBI agent, and he's kind of been thrown under the bus by the FBI because he's under an investigation, and he's kind of working with Kingpin, and how Kingpin kind of maybe persuades him to come kind of work for him or to kind of help him out. It's an interesting dynamic. I don't know if I necessarily believe that switch all the way through, or it may seems a little quick, but the way they kind of tell his backstory, Bullseye's backstory, I thought was really kind of interesting. But I just think everybody, Karen Page and played by Deborah Ann Wall, and Charlie Cox, I really respond well to their portrayals of those characters of Matt Murdock and Karen. Foggy, he takes me. I hate to say, I can't remember the actor's name who plays him, but he just annoys the hell out of me in this series, throughout not just this season but just multiple seasons. I think Vincent D'Onofrio, which you guys have known we talked about for our Men in Black and our Still Awesome ItMod mini episode, we talked about his portrayal in Men in Black, and I mean we've talked about his illustrious career, and he is still really good as Kingpin. And I want to see also where he takes this character in the back half of this show. But I'm digging it. I can't speak too highly of it, because everybody online, if you just look at a lot of the comic book nerds, whoever you follow, they're like praising Daredevil right now. I like what I'm seeing, but I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh my God, this is the best that, Marvel Netflix has ever done and blah, blah, this and that. I'm not going to go there, but it's a solid show and I'm digging it. But again, if you're going to go on Netflix and you want to see something with some real badass action, again, the night comes for us. Check it out.
Correct answer.
All right.
Okay, because of the Skype, I couldn't throw in my Signaturezingers, Darren. So I was wondering if I'll just say them now. If everybody could give me, what is it called when you get a quiet room? What is that called, Brian? What is it called?
A quiet room?
Yeah. So when you're recording. Yeah. I need to get some room tone. That's what it's fucking called. It's called room tone. Okay. Give me some room tone so that Darren can then edit these in later. Okay. So here they are. Here's my wife dork Signaturezingers. Bushmaster. That's what they called you in college, Brian. Is that a good one? How about this one? My name is Dex, and I'm here to sex. What about that one? Is that one good? And here's my last one.
Okay.
So I Googled.
I'm trying to see how does that. My name is Dex, and I'm here to sex. That's interesting. That's an interesting phrasing of that.
Thank you. And then I thought you'd appreciate it. A direct reference to your all-time favorite film. Okay, and then I looked up the name of the actor that plays Foggy for you. His name is Eldon Henson, more like Eldon Henson. Am I right? Am I right? I really do bring the magic to this program. I do.
Yeah. You're definitely bringing the zingers. That's a good one. I like that.
Thanks. 5 stars on Letterboxd. Not on Letterboxd. When they put out a movie. When they do the movie of my life, please give it 5 stars.
5 stars.
Okay.
All right. Lisa, how was your weekend dork?
My weekend dork was great, as per usual. But the night before Halloween came out, 2018 came out officially, the Secret Society of Filmmasons, formerly Secret Society of Filmmasons, Film Club Ashburn showed the Halloween 1978 film, which I hadn't seen in a while. I feel like I had thought I had seen it fairly recently, and Brad's like, no, because I'm not exactly about to sit down and watch that by myself. But we
watched it last year.
Okay, so it had been a full year since I'd watched it, and I really appreciated the opportunity to watch these 2 films back to back. Just because there are direct references in the new film to the old film, like visual references that like a non-visual person like me will not recognize unless they're literally put next to each other. But I'm going to say something potentially blasphemous. Please do not throw me out of the door cave. But I like the new film better than the old film. I think that the 2018 movie, for me personally, is a better movie. That's just what I think. And
I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's no Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, though.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Turn it off!
So, like, to me, I there are a few things, like, so, how do I say this? The original movie was just your typical slasher movie, and which is fine.
Before there was a typical.
Yeah, because it was setting the standard, and it's not its fault that everybody following that did the exact same thing. But one of the things that I just don't find interesting anymore is the idea that the teenagers who get murdered by Michael Myers have it coming in a way because they are sexually active and drinking and are horrible.
Laurie Strode's not that way, though.
But she doesn't get murdered. She lives. Like, literally.
But he does go after her.
He does. But her virgin powers keep him off.
Got it.
So
I remember those. They were great.
We saw the tits of every
I like
every
that phrase, virgin powers.
Yeah. They're like vegan powers, but even more pious, I guess. Even his sister in the beginning of the movie is
poor
like
Judith.
Yeah, poor Judith. Spoilers, I guess. Was necking on the couch before, and so like I guess the implication is that Michael Myers has some kind of aversion to sex, and so he sees. Maybe he sees teenagers fucking, and then he's like, I have to murder them.
Yeah, none of that's ever laid out.
No.
People, of course, talk about that and discuss it.
Right, but it's just those scenes are just an excuse to see contextually underage boobs. Who doesn't want to see them? But I don't know. To me, it's
I don't need to see
contextually, not literally.
I just need grown titties.
It's clear in that film that all of those teenagers are like 40 years old.
Yeah, in my weekend, I'm going to talk about Night of the Comet, and there's I'm going to put a button in that because this relates to that.
So we're going to go back to grown titties, or we're going back to teenage titties?
Teenage titties, yeah.
What I don't understand is how anybody could get a babysitter after seeing 1978. Like, not even your dry cleaning is safe. This girl's like, ooh, I've got butter on me. Ooh, here's a nice clean shirt. Strip naked in the kitchen. Like, I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make any sense. And
PJ Souls does what PJ Souls does. Does? Does. I'm not doing well tonight. Let's just quit.
No. There is some like there is some true gold in this film, obviously.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And one of them, of course, is Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
Terrible doctor. Like, I would not want him to be my psychologist.
I mean, he's a great doctor if he's the doctor of evil. He wants to kill that evil.
Like, what kind of doctor goes, my patient, clearly the embodiment of true evil. Can we all just band together?
The type of doctor who ends up being the doctor of pure evil. He's the shape, Lisa. There's no
Donald
reasoning.
Pleasance is not the shape.
No, he's the doctor of the shape.
Oh, yeah, he's the doctor of the shape.
Yeah.
Well, the new guy, he doesn't want to destroy him.
Well, no spoilers.
Spoilers. Okay. Anyway, also
Jesus, Lisa.
The idea of the shape as a murder. This idea where it's just like, is he human? Is he not human? Like this kind of
again.
gray area.
I don't think the film explicitly says either or, other than Loomis believing that he is something that's incurable.
But here's where I go, like, they're implying maybe there's something more. The fact that he can be stabbed with a knitting needle, anybody could get stabbed with a knitting needle. That seems pretty easy. But he's stabbed with a knitting needle, stabbed in the torso with a knife, and shot 6 times, and is still able to get up quick enough and disappear before anybody can tell where he went. To me, that seems he's superhuman to me.
Well, obviously not based on what happens in the
Maybe
new
he did some
Halloween.
bath salts. Remember when bath salts were a thing?
People get shot and walk away. People get shot, a whole bunch of times. Look at 50 Cent.
He literally disappeared. Like, wouldn't he struggle and be like, ow? At least
we never saw him after he gets up and he disappears. And then, based on 2018, we assume Will Patton comes by and arrests him.
I'm not saying that he's supernatural. I'm just saying that it was strongly implied. Darren, you're with me. Strongly implied. Shot 6 times, disappears into the night, doesn't lie on the ground and go, ow. That's how I would end my movie.
I see Lisa's argument, and I could argue, I could counterpoint that against Lisa, but the fact that
why would you? Because she's right.
Well, the fact that him getting up and disappearing so fast, like the amount of trauma that he sustains, that's doable. Like the body can take that, but the body can't take that and then just pop smoke and disappear. Like, you're gonna be like, ah, like Lisa said. Like,
and that's the thing. We never see that deleted scene between 1978 Halloween and 2018 Halloween where Will Patton comes in and Michael Myers is like, ow.
He's like crying. He's like,
it's Halloween 2 that fully puts Michael Myers into the supernatural, and Halloween 4 and 5 and 6 and H2O and Resurrection.
Yeah.
But they've been since retconned.
Yeah, now they're gone.
They're gone.
I think in the light of 2018, you do need to reevaluate some of the stuff that goes on in 78, which I appreciate and like.
And then, of course, the last little piece of gold to come out of the 78 film, aside from an entire genre of movies, is Jamie Lee Curtis, obviously. Her ability to portray fear in a really grounded way. And the fact that even after all of these years, she cherishes that character and continues to think about that character, and all of that work she's done now informs the new character, and she's amazing, and she is the original Scream Queen because of this film.
Not to jump to a review cast, but that's why I prefer 2018, because 2018 is building off of a life between those two movies, and I think that gives a little extra character and emotion to savor.
I think that the 1978 Halloween was about cheap thrills. Getting to see some titties, getting to see the violence.
I don't think I would necessarily quantify it as cheap thrills or classify it as cheap thrills.
What was the overall message or depth of the film?
No, it's a scary movie. I just wouldn't call them cheap. I think the tension in Halloween is expertly crafted.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't say that they're not expertly crafted. I think that it's a great movie, but in terms of
you're saying
story,
but you're saying that a thrill in itself is just a cheap thing, and I don't think that's true.
Okay.
Oh, so I thought Lisa was talking when cheap thrills. I thought you were mentioning are you talking about the the sex, the team. Like
Yeah, I think that, but also the violence. You know, even if it's skillfully crafted, it's not, you know, it's not like a particularly deep film. It's a film to go and get scared. Where I think that
I just
the
take
2000
exception to the word cheap.
Okay, I'm so sorry. But it was really about evoking tension and getting the scares and getting the you know, the gratification of seeing titties. I don't know. And the new
That's just
the new
70s,
film,
babe.
yeah, the new film is I feel smaller because you said babe. Just in context to the 70s. I'm just like, oh no, I'm
Listen
a little
here,
lady.
little lady.
But I really think that the 2018 movie does all of that. Less tits, I guess. But it's a message movie.
Yeah.
So, and it has all of that character depth where, like, the 1978 movie just didn't have. And that's something I like about modern movies and modern horror movies, because of now they're going for something a little, you know,
Well,
more
because
challenging.
that slasher dynamic has been played out.
Yep.
All right. Brad, how was your weekend dork?
It was okay.
Dang.
Like,
Wait, what?
I've been trying to watch a horror movie a night. Darren, I know you've been doing the same thing as a build up to Halloween. And I've been watching just a lot of movies that have not been thrilling me.
Yeah.
You know, Lisa and I watched Chud recently. Okay, I enjoyed Chud.
I gave it 3 stars.
It's not bad. It's not bad. I watched Prime Night last night with Jamie Lee Curtis
Yeah.
because of our Halloween conversations. Prime Night's terrible, guys. Like, it's not good. It's sort of interesting for its draping, you know, like it's not, draping's not the right word, for its dressing. That's the word that I was looking for it's 80s or 70s dressing.
Yeah.
But as a film itself, it's pretty subpar. And then I watched Richard Franklin's Road Games again with Jamie Lee Curtis, and starring Stacy Keach as a truck driver who is following what may or may not turn out to be a serial killer in Australia with his dingo dog sidekick. Yeah. That movie is weird and wonderful and oddly paced. And like Stacy Keach is such a bizarre lead. He's trapped in that cab for the entire movie practically, and he's just talking to himself or he's talking to his dingo.
Yeah.
It's a weird little movie.
I did fall asleep during that movie.
You did. You fell asleep like 20 minutes into his cab monologue.
Oh my God. How does that movie end? I guess you don't have to
I'm
tell
not
me.
going to tell you. You're gonna
I was
watch
really
it.
enjoying it.
We own it. It's like I like it, but like each of these movies, they all did their job, but none of them I left like, yeah, I'm excited that I'm doing this Halloween-a-thon.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm going, why am I doing this Halloween-a-thon?
Yeah.
I've always wanted to sleep in the, like, you know how they have like in the cab of a truck, they have like a little bed. I've always wanted to sleep in one of those.
I have no comment on
I
that,
don't want
Lisa.
to sleep in one.
Yeah, no, that does
I'm
not sound
scared of
comfortable to
those.
me at all.
Oh,
If there's a
really?
dingo in there, I like to curl up with the dingo.
That dingo is so sweet.
He's an adorable dingo. But like the serial killer, is he actually a dingo, Lisa? That's a plot point.
What?
The film I really want to talk about is a film that I missed at Lost Weekend, but I caught at home, and that is Prospect.
Oh.
It's a sci-fi western, which is a combination, sort of like the horror western, very hard to pull off, and rarely is it even attempted.
That's the one with the red viper in it, right? From Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
So the story is this father and daughter are going to the far reaches of space to mine a valuable orb from the surface of this forest moon. It's basically Endor. And inside the earth of this moon are these organic pod-like creatures, these living things, but living in a Venus flytrap kind of way. They don't really have a personality. They're not really going anywhere. But to harvest them from the ground, it takes a tremendous amount of skill, and you can poison or damage the find in your retrieval if you don't have the craft to do it. And the father, who's played by Jay Duplass of the Duplass brothers, he knows how to do it. He's actually been alerted by a group of mercenaries who have stumbled upon a mother lord. Jesus Christ, Brad, I cannot talk today.
It's okay.
It's driving me crazy.
It's okay.
A mother lode
Yes.
of these organic things that they have hired Jay Duplass to harvest.
So the orb that you mentioned, that's the organic thing.
So
That's
like
the
there's an
little-
organic thing, and if you sprinkle some special chemicals on it and you cut the proper places on its like meat sack, you can remove what looks like a gold gem.
And that's how babies are made.
And those gold gems are highly valuable in the market of the future.
Okay.
Anyway, the daughter and father land on the planet. They kind of crash land on the planet. And they start marching towards where this site is.
Yeah.
And that's when they run across Pedro Pascal and his Gatling gun toting buddy.
Oh.
And things don't go that well for anybody involved. And it becomes this unlikely confrontational relationship between the daughter and Pedro Pascal with the possible journey of going to this mother lode to get all this money. What is amazing about the film is its look. They really do pull off that fusion of sci-fi Western in a way that I have not seen before, even in films like Serenity or Firefly, right? That Joss Whedon is desperately trying to do a cool cowboy Western.
Yeah.
You know, but by the time they got to Serenity, they pretty much just booted the cowboy talk and just made a sci-fi film, right? This rides that line quite well, and on a shoestring budget. It's incredibly impressive. The CG work that is there is really well done, but the costumes and the production design is stellar.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I caught a trailer. I can't remember where I was or what I was watching when I saw the trailer for it, but every time I see Pedro pop up in something, I'm like, dang.
He's really good at
Yeah?
it. Yeah. And there are other actors that pop up and you're like, oh, damn, I love this guy. You know,
I'm looking forward to it. Is it getting any type of distribution?
it's getting VOD situation.
Is that soon?
It might even be now.
Oh.
Let's see. I'm on the page. No. It comes out November 8th.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not that long.
And it'll be like a select cities, New York, LA, VOD.
Oh, it comes out in theaters on November 8th.
But select cities.
Select cities,
It's coming out in both. It's sort of like An Evening with Beverly Loughlin this weekend, right?
Gotcha.
It's in a couple theaters in America, but it's mostly
Which you
just
should
on
go check out, listeners.
I
if you
love
can.
Evening with Beverly Loughlin.
Yeah.
And I want to see Prospect.
Yeah, you'll like Prospect.
I still haven't seen Sisters Brothers or Brothers Sisters. Sisters
That's
Brothers.
great, but
It's a good movie.
Super vomity, says Brad.
Super vomity.
Oh.
Like
Yeah,
That's
actually,
what it-
Brad,
Go ahead, Bri.
what's that? Oh, I'm sorry. I know I'm the Skype, so I gotta wait. But the spider scene.
Oh yeah, so
What's up with that?
So I mean, here's the thing: that spider scene leads to a V scene.
So that's when you and I can both step out and get some popcorn or something.
What happens is John C. Reilly is, and Joaquin Phoenix. They've set up camp. They're sleeping outside, and this spider crawls into John C. Reilly's mouth.
Oh my god!
And impregnates
Oh.
his cheek with spiders, so that then he has this tremendous nightmare, and it's a great nightmare of bodies being hacked up and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, shit.
And then he wakes up the next morning, and he doesn't vomit, but like he spits out blood and nastiness, and all the baby spiders come out.
Oh my god.
Oh my god! Are you serious?
I'm dead serious.
Brian is going to be sleeping with his mouth closed.
But Brian, Sisters
Oh my-
Brothers, it's in my top 25 right now of my favorite films of the year.
I'm sure that all old-timey times were just not for me and Brian. It's full of spiders and vomiting.
Man, But you know what's crazy about that is like I actually had a nightmare about that. I actually had a nightmare. I had a nightmare that I had a dream when I was a kid about this like old man, and it was like it was like this basket of eggs, and he ate an egg, and it was like all these kids in the house, and it was like a spider started like coming out of his mouth, and then he started chasing the kids around, and the kids like ran out the house, and that shit freaked me out, and to this day, and I was like, that move, oh my god, that might traumatize. I don't think I can watch that.
I mean, here's the thing.
Okay,
Here, Brian, this is what I want. I don't want to go to the theater with you two, but when it comes out on DVD or VOD, Lisa and you come on over. Darren, you're invited.
I live here.
Come on over, Lisa. Sit on the couch next to my couch, and we'll watch Sisters Brothers together. And I'll be able to like, whoa, eyes, cover. Because John C. Reilly is amazing in the film. It's his movie. It's not Joaquin's film. It's really John C. Reilly's film. Riz Ahmed is great.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And Jake Gyllenhaal's good. He's doing a weird Jake Gyllenhaal voice, but you get used to it.
All right. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, Lisa.
My phobia also began with a dream.
Right.
I've already told that story.
Yeah.
Sad story.
Let's not bring that one up.
Ugh, don't say bring it up.
Okay. Darren,
yes.
How was your week indoors?
It was
More fun than a mouthful of spiders?
It was definitely spider-free, I think. Let me see. So, like you mentioned,
Sorry,
Brad,
Brian.
I have been, although I didn't start, I don't know what made me choose. Actually, I know what it was. So, you're doing the watch a horror movie every day leading up to Halloween. And most people start on October 1st. And for me, it hit me like somewhere around the middle of the month. And
You're like, it's October 14th.
Well, actually, what happened was I was going through the streaming services trying to find something to watch. And so, they'll bring up genres. And so
Amazon right now.
Yeah.
Lots of good channels.
And that's what it was. It was Amazon, actually, Amazon Prime Video. So I was going through there. And I saw a bunch of horror movies. That's where I saw Life Force. That's where I saw Harbinger Down. That's where I saw these are the titles for The Night of the Comet. And I go, you know what? I'm going to watch. There's so much stuff on here to watch. So many new movies. And these are older movies, but they're newly added to Amazon. So I said, you know what? There's enough for me to watch a horror movie a day, at least starting from now. So, that's what I chose to do. The first one I watched was Harbinger Down. And that movie, this movie is not that old. It's only about 2 years old, maybe 2 or 3 years old. And so you know how, Brett, when you said that you got to a point where you're like, because the movies that you watched weren't that good or weren't hitting you in the right way, and you're like, why am I doing this?
Did you start immediately?
Immediately, right? I was like, man, I can't do this for however many more days. But I got through that movie. So the good thing I will say about Harbinger Down, there's an Arctic expedition. These people are up there, these crabbers, and they find a downed Soviet cosmonaut, and within the wreckage of that Soviet cosmonaut was infected with something
from space. A cosmonaut, like a space.
Yeah. And so
I don't know what this movie's about. Apparently,
they bring the find aboard, they salvage it, and then because that cosmonaut has something unearthly in him, it comes out, and basically you just have aliens, just alien loose on the ship, and how to stop it and get back to civilization, or stop this from getting back to civilization. So that's basically the premise of the movie. But the real draw of the movie is the special effects. In this day and age of CGI usage, this movie, again, it's only like 2 or 3 years old. It's not that old. They go hard and heavy on the practical effects. So I will say that all of the and it's similar to The Thing in that multiple people are exposed, but they don't know who's exposed. And when it does manifest itself, it comes in this non-humanoid, unearthly, totally alien shape. And so, when like in The Thing, when at the very end where it's like this pillar of flesh and these limbs and stuff come, well, that's what this thing looks like. But it also takes several different forms. It breaks off. There are multiple ones. So they have a lot of fun playing around with different iterations of this creature. And so that's the real draw. Other than that, it's The acting is bad.
Okay,
The
okay.
directing is bad.
So what's next? What was next on your list?
The next on my list was Life Force.
Oh,
What was
yeah!
Life Force first? Yeah. And
That's one of those movies that Brad's tried to make me watch multiple times.
In the theater.
In the theater, and I always manage to fall asleep.
how Lisa could fall asleep
I
in
just-
Life Force is beyond.
I just see a bunch of nudes in a tube, and I'm like, this is so soothing, and then I fall asleep. And is
There's
that the right
so
movie?
much screaming.
There's
in
so
that
much screaming.
film.
The sound design, like just the nature of special effects. If there's a flash of light, like it's just this weird. I don't know. Like Life Force was. It's actually it was a good follow up to Harbinger Down because it was like, okay, yeah, I'll be good if I can get some more of these this level of quality in for the next couple of nights, then I'll be good. Because as batshit crazy as Life Force is, it's still, my rewatch this time of the movie wasn't so much let me sit down and enjoy the narrative or whatever. This time it was just looking at the filmmaking going on and just thinking about that period of time, in the 80s, and then compared to filmmaking now and what we see on screen. And, a lot of times when you watch movies today, you see a special effect on the screen, and the first thing I'll speak for myself, the first thing I'll think about is I'll comment on if that's practical or if that's CGI, right? But when you watch Life Force, you have practical effects, you have optical effects, you have the effects that they use, not in camera, but in the processing of the film. It's just so
animation.
There's just so much, just and then the scope of the film, the fact that there's a shuttle crew going up and they find a alien craft hidden in the head of Halley's Comet, right? And then when you get to that craft, just the scale of the inside and the lore that goes unspoken about that is insane.
Yes.
It's insane.
And where it goes, it's a space vampires film. Not really.
There's space vampires in it.
Yeah, I don't want to talk. If you have not seen Life Force, you need to watch it. Yeah. Because the ending is not just let's fight some space vampires.
No, it's not. Yeah, speaking of scope, just the end of that film is
so much screaming.
If they were to make Life Force today,
no, they'd ruin it.
To pull off that ending, they would heavily CGI to expand and make the scope as big as this miracle film that's from the 80s does with practical effects and optical effects.
Lisa had her controversial opinion that 2018 Halloween is better than 78 Halloween. And I'll throw another controversial opinion. I think Life Force is better than Texas Chainsaw Massacre as far as Tobe Hooper's filmography is concerned.
And so this is another reason why I chose Life Force is because of recently watching this thing about Tobe Hooper and also like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff like that.
It's a great movie. I love it.
Yeah.
But and maybe not every aspect of Life Force is successful. There's some wonky acting.
Oh yeah.
Maybe you respond well to the effects, maybe you don't.
Right.
But to your point, the scope, the insanity of it.
Like if you were to just put down on paper right now in 2018, say, all right, let's pitch this idea to Hollywood right now. If you were to put down on paper what Life Force entails, they'd be like, dude, we can't make this.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's going to cost too much, and this is wweird. Like, why is this happening to this person? Like, what the fuck? You could not do that to this. So just on paper alone, it's an impressive and staggering amount of ideas. And the fact that they coalesce in this film, and Tobe Hooper's able to pull it off more often than not,
and bring Patrick Stewart along.
Oh my god, oh my gosh, that scene in the helicopter, jeez. So anyway, that was I watched that, and then last night I'm gonna wrap it up. I watched Night of the Comet, and this is an interesting thing happened to me. So Night of the Comet is one of those movies that I can't say that I do this that often, or maybe I should investigate into it. But Night of the Comet, apparently, as of last night, was a movie that I was looking back at in memory through rose-tinted glasses, as they say. It had been a while since I had seen that film, but for whatever reason, I just always remember loving that film or really, really, really liking it when I was younger, right? And so whenever those types of movies would come up, or whenever that movie would come up, I would always champion it. And so anyway, I see that Amazon is showing that, and I go, well, that's got to go in rotation, right? So I put this movie in, and you even mentioned it earlier, Brad. I don't know if it was before we started recording.
It was before we started recording.
Yeah, so you have that weird experience where you sit down and watch a movie that in your mind, if there was like someone had a gun to your head, you'd be like, yo, this movie was amazing. I love this film. You sit down and watch a movie, and then you have this realization wash over you that, oh no, like this movie's bad, or this movie hasn't aged well, or I used to like this shit,
or I've matured into an adult.
Right. So that button that I wanted to put that I put into this conversation earlier about the inappropriateness, the underage teenagers or the teenage nudity or whatever the fuck, right? So the story follows.
I think the phrase Lisa used was child titties.
I said contextually underage. All of those women
yes.
were in their early 40s. They looked amazing.
All right. Well, in this movie, I don't know how old the actress who plays the younger sister in the cheerleading in the cheerleading outfit. Firstly, like her only goal in life during this apocalyptic cataclysmic event is she's upset that her sister took there's no boys left for her. There's no guys left for her to get with, right? And like that's the only thing she cares about through the entire movie, right? And so anyway, she's in high school. She's like a junior or a senior or whatever. But then there's a scene where after the comet passes, everyone turns to dust. Spoiler alert, everyone. She's in a radio station. They think everyone's vanished because they go outside. There's piles of clothes and dust, ash everywhere. So they say, all right, well, the radio is still broadcasting, so let's go to the local radio station because they can hear on radios or whatever that a DJ is still doing his program. So they get to the radio station. It's pre-recorded. And so they decide to hold out there, right? So while they're holding out there, the younger sister, she's in the bathroom or in the mirror somewhere, and she's taking her clothes off, right? And she's got like this see-through like bra top and these like really sexy panties or whatever. And the way they shoot it, first, you're looking down behind her, so you can see her. It's like a high angle. You're looking at her back and her ass, right? And then they cut to the front with like a medium shot where you can see her breast, even though she has her top on. You can see through it, right? And I'm thinking she's a high school student. Like she's a high school, so you can see her nipples. You can see her like her panties. I think they were almost like you could see through them. But anyway, you can see her ass and her boobs, right? But I'm like, okay, she's a high school girl. Like why? Like this shouldn't be in the movie, right? And so that was one thing that I was like, how come no one ever noticed this or brought this up? But then like there's a character. This is the guy that she's mad at that her sister likes her sister. But they meet a guy at the radio station named Hector, right? And the other lead the other lead of the film, who takes a liking to Hector and vice versa, she says the most racist shit to this guy, like in her, I guess, I don't know, like her, not courtship, but I mean her just trying to flirt with him or whatever. Like she says like the most racist shit to this dude, like. And I mean, like that would be offensive to either South Americans, Mexicans, or whatever. Like the way she's like pronouncing his name, Hector, stuff, making references to like Mexican cuisine or some shit. It was just a bunch of stereotypical shit, right? Stereotypes, and just, I don't know, it was real bad. And I just remember, I remember feeling like, why this is one of those things that happens, I guess, like with cinema. And we've had conversations about this before, like how they entertain us on one hand, but they also can mark a specific time for a people as far as where we were socially and mentally, economically, like all that stuff. So it's
they can go on and write the movie Peppermint that came out this year.
Is that? Are you serious?
No, I'm joking.
Oh, I was about to say, wait, what?
I'm just saying.
Like, yeah,
it still happens.
Yeah, and the fact that it can still happen, right? We make some progress in some areas that feels huge, it feels immense, it feels big, but then And sometimes you can look at it, and in the grand scheme of things, it stuff like this conversation we're having right now just makes those little steps seem so minute, or it makes us feel like have we made any progress?
Watching Peppermint and then seeing the announcement that Rambo 5 is finally coming and he's going up against the drug cartel, it's made me go.
But I do feel like we do have more people pointing at those
Sure,
films
sure.
and going like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
And movies don't want to be that movie, the movie where everybody looks at it and goes, "What the fuck is this?"
Pinata Factory.
So I think that's like the fact that, like when Brad originally saw Monster Squad and kids are calling each other the F word, that did not offend him at the time.
Oh, that's in Night of the Comet too.
Sure.
Because she's
that,
like
that was like the thing to say.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, everything was gay. Like this was gay, that was gay.
Watch mid-90s, the Jonah Hill film, and it'll take you back to that time as well.
But but like that, it's that kind of stuff where it's just like, well, and maybe it's time to put these films not necessarily to bed, but like maybe not show that to your child, or maybe whatever.
I struggle with that because, as Lisa pointed out, she had to hurt me with the Monster Squad comment. Movie's still awesome, Lisa. I know. I know. It's not cool. It's not cool.
You can't
but it's also Night of the Comet. It's not that.
It's not Night of the Comet.
I can pick and choose.
I would just say, like, if you're going to show a kid the Monster Squad, you better know when to do the 15 seconds forward.
Yeah. Or also,
have a conversation with them.
With that definitely should happen either with or without Monster Squad, but definitely, So that's gonna do it for my weekend dork. I caught the Night Comes for Us again. The great part about that is like on Friday when it drops, of course I've been telling people you need to watch it, but the great part about this weekend was getting texts from people either as they're watching it or right after they finish. And
I love following Timo's Twitter feed because he was retweeting a lot of people.
Yeah,
I love seeing his excitement and enthusiasm for this film, and also calling out people for watching it illegally.
Oh, so yeah.
I can't wait until everybody starts watching Dog, and then maybe somebody will text me.
Yeah, no one's gonna watch Dog. Lisa.
Nobody likes the movies I like.
I'm just saying that film's not going to get massive distribution around here.
I'm sorry, but yeah. So it sucks that Night of the Comet can't be on physical media because this is a movie that this is the type of movie you hand off to other people. Like here, just watch this.
Not
movie.
Night of the Comet.
I'm sorry, The Night Comes for Us. The Night Comes for Us.
I have the Night of the Comet Blu-ray over here, Darren.
I'm good on that. The Night Comes for Us is a movie that I wish I could have on physical media so I can say here, just trust me and just watch this film. The rewatch was cool. Fantastic Fest. Like being there can do things to you as far as your perception of all these films. I mean, because you're mainlining cinema like back to back to back to back for days on end, right? And so, watching The Night Comes for Us again, or rewatching it, the pacing of it played different for me. The story, I was shocked almost to find that there was so much story going on in the film, and in my mind I had built it up as this. I had remembered it as it just being action, 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 action. When in reality, that's not the case. Like the film, I don't want to say takes its time, but it does allow the story to breathe because it is a pretty involved world that they're building with the Triad and this group of the Six Seeds, this group of elite enforcers of the Triad, and just their laws, the laws that they're governed by, and how they play into the narrative. So they're setting up this complicated system of factions and sides and these people who are involved in it, and then they put this guy in the middle of, and actually Ito, the main character played by Joe Towson, they put him in the middle of it, but they also put Iko Uwais in it and give him like really a lot of the heart of the story, as far as you really feeling sympathetic for his character, or to a degree or not. But then their relationship that they establish and that leading up to this inevitable confrontation, these two immovable objects. I don't know, like it's still, even though like there was a lot more for me to process and unpack on my rewatch, it's still an exhilarating watch. And like the movie refuses to calm down. Like the last frame of that movie is still like the perfect punctuation.
Check out that film on Netflix. And Timo says if enough people talk about it, there's 2 more films in this series.
Dude, oh my gosh, really?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It's
a planned trilogy.
I need a hopefully the next film follows the operator. I just need her, who she is, for the listeners, that's played by Julia Estelle. To me, she steals the show in this film. If there's ever an Expendables, like a female version of Expendables, like Julia Estelle needs to be like the newcomer who is in the movie, because
She's way too cool for
she
Expendables.
is amazing. She is amazing. So yeah,
I'd like to report a murder. Lisa just slaughtered Stallone.
Sorry, Sly. But yeah, Timo, like, give her all the roles, please. So that's going to do it for my Week in Dork. Ladies and gentlemen, check those things out. And when we come back, we're going to do our review cast for 2018's Halloween. That rhyme. So yeah, stay tuned. We'll be back after the break.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for our review cast. This week, we're talking about Halloween.
Yeah.
David Gordon Green's return to the film franchise that made Jamie Lee Curtis a horror household name. So we caught the film at Fantastic Fest this year.
Take a shot.
I miss Fantastic Fest. Take another one. Sorry, I didn't know we were doing that, B. But yeah, we caught it we caught it at Fantastic Fest this year. But it has been released to the masses, and now the general public has seen it.
And there's always the threat of seeing a film through film festival colored glasses. This was our opening film. Yep. Maybe we all loved it. Maybe we were just high on the fest.
This is true. This can happen. But we're here to do our review cast today. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we typically do, we're going to go round robin with our good, the bad, and the ugly. Brian.
All right. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. The good. What I liked about this movie, started at the beginning. The opening of this movie I thought was really, really effective. Of course, this is a spoiler review. So when the 2 reporters go to the Institute to visit Michael Myers, and he pulls out the mask to try to get him. They want to see if he can talk. I may not be explaining a lot of the points.
Well, they
right,
want a reaction because Michael Myers has been
a
practically
reaction,
catatonic.
Yes,
They're putting a
since he was
podcast
captured,
together. Sons of bitches.
yeah, that's right, exactly. And that opening sequence and the title card and to hear the music is, and talk about nostalgia, like bringing that back to like the classic 1978 Halloween, even using like the same font and everything. And I just thought that opening was just really, really effective to really just kind of get you locked into the film. And it really does a good job, especially that first act, I think, really kind of building on that suspense, building up that tension with everything. So I thought that was really great. Character-wise, I thought Jamie Lee Curtis as Laurie Strode, and I heard you guys talk about this a little bit after you guys saw it at Fantastic Fest, where I think, Brad, you mentioned about the trauma of Laurie Strode, and she talked a little bit about this at Comic-Con as well, and seeing how that trauma has affected not just her but her daughter and her granddaughter, and how that trauma affects the different generations of her lineage, and even with Judy, more so with Judy Greer, and how that has really kind of strained her relationship with her mother, especially with the way that she was raised. I like that dynamic, and I like how Judy Greer has seemingly pushed her mother away, but how that kind of comes back to really pay off at the end.
We're going to spoil
with the
things,
scene with
folks.
her
So
in the
if you
basement.
have not seen the
Yes.
film, just be warned.
Yes, this is a spoiler, but how that pays off at the end, I thought that was just magnificent. Yeah, it's like everybody gets really their moment, especially with with Judy Greer, Jamie Lee, and I forget the girl who plays her granddaughter. I think her last name was Matichak. Let me see if I can
Andy.
see that real quick. Andy Matichak. They all really have their moments in this film, so I thought that was just really good to kind of see that really play out. But yeah, I mean, those are some of my good points that I really enjoyed about this film, and yeah, I definitely kind of chime in with some of you guys' goods as well.
All right, Wife Dork.
Yeah, my main good for this movie was the updating of the narrative to be more sympathetic to the victim. So if you listen to my Week in Dork, like where I saw the original 1978 film, it really seemed like the kids who got murdered by Michael Myers were kids who, in one way or another, had it coming. They were reckless with their sexuality and drinking, and they were not nice to each other. They were not good friends. And the kid who studies and is a virgin and stays in on Halloween night is the kid who survives. Yeah. And I like in Halloween, they made it a point to say, like, these kids that get murdered, they're not perfect. They do drink, they do make mistakes, but the one kid who cheats on his girlfriend, he's out of the picture. He's not murdered, and the couple on the couch at the beginning of the movie, yeah, she had her boyfriend over, but they were just going to dry hump on the couch. That was their plan for the night. It was a very sweet high school type relationship. And
well, the violence in the new Halloween really is there to emphasize the randomness of it all, right? And I love the sequence where Mike has his mask on finally, and he's going down, Haddonfield's suburb street, and he's approaching a couple in a car, and then he's distracted by the teenage woman at the door. And so, like, he's focusing in on the couple in the car, and then turns right and goes up to that woman in the house. It's there's a much more emphasis on the randomness of his attack.
He's almost like a force of nature or something.
Yeah, but then there's also that is counterbalanced with the concept of fate, that she feels that he is coming for her.
To me, I don't think that that's a fate perspective. To me, I think that her thinking or knowing that he's going to come after her is because she understands Michael Myers more than anyone. There are a few people who are murdered that do have it coming, and that is the podcasters and Dr. Sartain. Because the podcast, so these are the people who were sympathetic in a way to Michael Myers, and they went contrary to Loomis's original hypothesis that Michael Myers is a force of evil that needs to be eradicated. They have this desire to, understand the mind of a killer, to the point where they're ready to try to force Laurie Strode in telling her, it would be best for you if you faced your fear, and when really they're just trying to get something out of her. So when they're murdered, like the podcasters, they put themselves in harm's way by taking the mask and getting involved. And Same with Dr. Sartain. Now, does this like actually reflect my worldview that, people, like I personally don't believe in capital punishment, but in the context of this film, like that's what the message of the film is. If you are sympathetic to evil, you will be party to it and then ultimately be destroyed by it. I also like the updating of Laurie's story, this idea that she's a victim. She suffers. She's self-medicating with alcohol, and she has isolated herself from her family and pushed society away because she lives in constant fear. But she also has more insight into evil because she's faced it. She's looked in Michael Myers, eyes, looked through the eyes of his mask. She pulled his mask off. Yeah. And so she is the resident expert, and people push her aside because they think, oh, well, you couldn't have any kind of insight. You couldn't understand what this is like because you are a victim and therefore are damaged. So I like the fact that this is, just like she said at Comic-Con, Laurie Strode is taking back her narrative. She has always been a footnote in the curiosity that is Michael Myers. And she gets to be the hero of her story. So I think all of that is really good.
All right, B, you're good.
Well, that's the thing. Because of the mechanics of sequels, the killer, the slasher, becomes the hero of their franchise, right? Michael Myers action figures are sold. Laurie Strode action figures are not sold. And I like how this movie, to Lisa's point, says this is Laurie's story. It's not about the night he came home. It's about the night that she struck back. I love that idea. But even on the slasher side of things, the care that the screenplay goes to give the victims who do succumb to the violence, right? Andy's friend, or Allison's friend, the blonde who's going to dry hump her boyfriend on Halloween night. That relationship that we see with her and the kid she's babysitting, that kid's amazing.
He's definitely
so
good
funny.
in this movie.
But through their dialogue, you get a sense of who she is as a person. And when she goes up to the room to show the kid, there's nobody in your room. Don't worry about it. Let me help you out. The warmth that she radiates, so that when she does discover Michael Myers in the closet and is attacked and ultimately murdered, when that knife goes down, as an audience member, I feel her loss in a way that I don't feel in the 78 version when PJ Souls gets it or whoever. And I was impressed that a slasher film could still elicit even though the victims are necessary to the model.
Well, everybody is put in a juxtaposition of somebody who loves them. Even the people who were murdered in their homes, they were receiving phone calls. They had babies in the other room. Everybody had someone who loved them and was going to miss them.
Even the cops in their car with the banh mi sandwich, and he's like, he wants to open up his eyes of his partner to the international flavors that are possible in a lunch.
Right.
And and the partner's like, no, I'm just going to eat my brownie.
And pudding.
Even when they go, they had a life on screen. And I've seen a lot of people complain about that scene, saying like, oh, it's so jokey and Danny McBridey. But those characters, for the moment that they're on screen, are given substance.
And I think there is something to that. Is a direct reference to every other movie that has two cops in a car. What are they going to talk about? They always talk about food.
Right, right. So I love all of that stuff outside of what you're talking about with the trauma story. And then, like for me, like my ultimate good is how the three generations of the Strodes come together at the end. It's not a cage, it's a trap. How damn satisfying that is when Judy Greer fakes crying, says, "Gotcha, Michael," shoots him.
Yeah.
And then, Laurie's in the shadows going, "Happy Halloween, Michael." The way that all comes together at the end is incredibly satisfying.
All right. Well, shit. You all said the good of the film. I love that. That's my favorite moment in the film when she says "gotcha." Like everything Lisa said, everything you said, Brian. I'm trying to think. That kid, he was going to be like my main thing. He's played by Jabril Nantambu, and he plays Julian. His name is Julian in the film. That particular relationship, how time is spent cultivating that. So when that moment happens, that was something that was immediately apparent to me because I also felt it. And that was something that that's something that I thought about even after that film is how much this film does that. Because we talked about it before on the podcast when we say, like, for me, one of my main complaints is you just don't care about the victim. So when they're dispatched, you're just there for the gore or whatever. But to me, that movie, that kill, but that experience, that story would last for me if I cared about any one of the people that something happened to.
Yeah, and like even Judy Greer's husband, Tim Russ, not Tim Russ, is that his name?
Yeah.
Toby
Russ.
Toby Huss.
Yeah, Toby Huss.
Toby,
Tim
yeah,
Russ
Toby
is
Huss,
Tuvok
right,
on Voyager, so that's not that guy.
Yeah.
He's so out of his element once Michael is set loose.
Yeah.
And when he finally dies, you knew it was coming, but you can't help but feel sorry for the guy who's just like, don't worry, I can take care of my family. I know what's going on. And, sorry, dude.
Nope. Yeah.
You can't mansplain Michael Myers to Laurie Strode.
Nope.
You cannot mansplain trauma to a woman, period.
All right, B, the bad.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry, guys. A lot of stuff that you guys were kind of just praising just really didn't work for me. I think when the movie does focus on the kids, focuses on Allison and her friends, I kind of check out a little bit, especially the stuff with the babysitter and the kid,
Really?
Julian.
Wow.
Yeah, that stuff didn't work for me. The comedy didn't work for me. It really kind of cuts the tension in the film. Like that whole sequence with when she discovers Michael Myers in the closet, and then you have him kind of saying like those quippy little lines. Like I don't know. Like it cuts the tension, and it just didn't work for me. It just I don't know. It and then a lot of the characterizations with those kids didn't work. I think some of like the one kid who tried to hit on Allison and got killed with the motion sensors in the yard. I thought that scene was I love like the setup of that scene, and it was brilliant the way they were able to use like the motion sensors with the lights turning on and off. I thought that was brilliant. But those characters, they seemed disposable to me. I just didn't like them as characters, like just the setups with them when you see them in high school and stuff like that. And then Allison and her boyfriend.
Would you have just preferred the tits from 1978? Like, was there not enough tits in this one? I'm getting defensive.
No. But but the just the whole thing with the
what's a slasher
Allison,
film
her boyfriend,
where you like the
teens?
Oh goodness. Well, you guys know I'm not really big into horror, so I don't know. I can't really think of any offhand.
I was thinking
really
actually
kinda
like
took.
Attack the Block probably works really well for you, and that's an interesting mixture of violence, tension, and humor.
Yeah. For me, it just didn't work for me in this film for the most part. There was a lot of kills that, well, I wouldn't say they're necessarily bad, but something I kind of noticed that were off screen that I thought could have been maybe a little more effective if we were able to see it a little bit more. Maybe not. I'm just kind of thinking about this offhand, but yeah. Well, I'm kind of thinking about the one kid that got the tattoo where he thought, that was going to be their night, and you see him kind of pinned.
Once you have the tattoo, there's an emotional punch to that.
Plus, we've already seen that exact kill in the 1978 film, so we don't need to see that kill again. It's a reference to another movie.
Yeah. But then the doctor too, Dr. Sartain. that whole thing with him and Will Patton and what happened like in the car and and then like after that, to me it just didn't seem to really kind of lead anywhere. I mean, maybe you guys can maybe explain that a little bit more, but when all that stuff happened with the doctor, to me it just kind of came out of left field, and then they never kind of really explored that any further. So I don't know where exactly they were trying to go with that.
The Doctor was really about, like, in modern horror films, everybody wants to get into the mind of the killer. All, like, you know, movies like Seven or even the Rob Zombie remake of Halloween. It's really all about, let's focus on what could turn, like, if I had a horrible childhood like this, would I be a murderer? And what this movie is saying and what the Dr. Sartain character is about is, you know, if you become too fascinated with the mind of a psycho killer and you start to sympathize with a psycho killer, you begin to, you know, want to emulate the psycho killer. So he made the full like 180 from fascination to emulation. Like, so to me, that was what really he was about. He was the extension of the podcasters plotline.
In a rewatch also, if you're tracking his story from the beginning, knowing how it ends, there are some really interesting tells that he gives early on in the film that I really appreciated on my second watch.
He's like Laurie. He wants to see Michael Myers out, but he wants to see Michael Myers out because he wants to see Michael Myers in his glory.
And he wants to feel what he feels.
I have to check that out again because I'm gonna go see it again because a friend of mine he's a big horror guy, so he wants to see it. So I'm gonna probably check it out again. But yeah, I mean, like I said, just all that stuff didn't work. Like the cops in the car. I know you guys talked highly about that. That all that stuff just didn't work for me. A lot of that stuff just kind of fell flat.
I've definitely seen a lot of people respond negatively towards those sequences. It's just for me, you know, this film 40 years ago would not even take the time to give a voice to these victims beyond cliche. And I appreciate the time allotted in the 2018 version to the people who fall under his knife. Plus, banh mi sandwiches are great, and that dude should have had one. And now the idea of a PB&J banh mi sounds appealing to me.
That's just fucking peanut butter on a baguette.
Yeah, sounds delicious.
It does sound delicious. I'm not going to shit on it.
All right, Lisa, your bad of the film.
My bad is the treatment of the character of Ray, which Brad has already spoken to. So Ray is Karen's rebellion. He's the absolute opposite of Laurie Strode. Literally, the worst thing that's ever happened to him is, you know, mice in his kitchen. And he just has no defensive instincts. Like when, you know, they have like...
But that's his point, though.
That's his point, right? But, you know, you'd like to think that Karen loves him.
Sure.
And then when he is murdered and his corpse is just laying in the front yard, literally nobody brings him up again. Like, you know, like... I think there's, you know, Karen, like, in the very next scene is like, where's Ray? And then there's, like maybe an understanding glance. I can't remember. But, the
time, though, that's going on from that point on, it's like that, right? You know, he's dead. She has to hide away. She has to protect her daughter. There really is not enough time for her to emotionally deal with that at all. And if we extended beyond the final shot of this film... You know, when Halloween 2 comes out, because this movie made $1 bajillion, they can reconcile with the death of Ray.
I still, if you were murdered and you were in the front and I was taking care of business, I'd still be like, oh, man, I wish Brad were here.
I would want you to survive the house first.
Oh, my God, I'm a woman. I can multitask like a fucking beast. We have multiple synapses firing at all times. I can mourn and load a gun.
As Judy Greer proved in the end of this movie.
All right.
Yeah.
Brad, the bad.
I love what Lisa's saying about Dr. Sartain, and I think that maybe the film is speaking to this idea of being consumed by the obsession of dark and evil things and forgetting about the victims. I feel like if that was the case, if they were going to introduce Sartain as a violent force, they should have maybe spent more time on developing that idea. He is the least interesting aspect of the film for me, and you get all of that through the podcasters. So then to have the other Loomis be the anti-Loomis, ultimately is not particularly interesting to me. I like the idea, what you're saying, Lisa. I just feel like the movie needed more to deal with that.
I think it was all there. I dealt with it. Like I said,
I know you did. It was all there for you.
Synapses.
I don't know if it was all there for me.
All right.
I don't have all those synapses like the lady Lisa here.
that was one of the bad of the film. I got that when I was watching the film. I particularly didn't need that in the film. But that's that and the humor of it. And I will say this, like I'm a huge fan of Danny McBride. I love Vice Principals. I love Pineapple Express. I love all his comedy work.
Your Highness, so good.
I can't say that I love Your Highness. I've seen it.
It's the best one.
I laugh
I
sometimes.
love that movie. It's inexplicable.
Yeah. But for this film, and this really, I don't know that it's not. I don't know. I can't even say that's the fault of the film. It's really probably not. It's me. But anyway, so coming out, because I didn't go to Comic-Con and I wasn't there for the panel, the Halloween panel, so I didn't hear or see or experience what you all did, but I did hear the stories from you all. So based on what you all told me was at that presentation, what Jamie Lee Curtis said and what she did and how she came across, that in my mind, because leading up to seeing the film at Fantastic, I didn't watch any of the trailers. So I'm just going by what you all are telling me and just the buzz, right?
None of that humor's in the trailer.
And so based on your conversation, I wasn't getting any of that humor from that panel and what Jamie Lee Curtis was speaking about and how she was relating to that one guest that was there that was a victim or whatever in the past. So I'm going into the movie thinking it's going to be a no-nonsense look at a victim and how, like what you said, how the process of them changing a narrative and going from being a victim to a victor, overcoming something internally and externally. So I'm thinking it's going to be like this serious take, not like Rob Zombie serious or, but I just felt like it was going to be a respectable take on the victim. And so when the humor comes, I don't know, because that's not what I was expecting, it was a little jarring to me. And not so much that it put me off the entire film or the scene or whatever. I just would rather have not had that in there. But that's my only bad I have for the film. And the Loomis thing. I didn't see that. I mean, I saw it coming, but I just didn't need that. But,
to me, like, the comedy is a humanizer. Like, it's
right.
Like to know what people laugh at is just a kind of shorthand for knowing a person.
So Brian, the Ugly. That's not your name. You're not Brian the Ugly, like Alexander the Great.
No, he's
I'm just
Brian
saying,
the Sweetie.
Yeah, I just need your picks, the ugly points, your ugly points of the film.
No ugly really. I guess the only ugly was that head stomp and the way his brain kind of smushed all over the ground. That was pretty ugly. Ugh. Been seeing a lot of head stomps lately.
They're in.
Heads getting smashed in. Yeah, this one was kind of. This was more kind of movie kind of, where it was just kind of just like you could see like the special effect of it. I don't know if that's necessarily how a head would smash, but it's pretty ugly.
All right, wife dork.
Yes. My ugly is how ugly I get when people try to tell me that this movie is not amazing. To me, I'm like, it's not fair because I'm so behind the message of this film. This idea that, victims have gone, or, people have gone through the kinds of stuff that, like, to me, like, whenever we have a conversation of, like, you know, what would you do if such and such happened? Like, my first answer was, I would just kill myself. I could not handle it. And the victims who walk amongst us are the people who have been through some shit, horrible things, and they keep going. Now, Laurie Strode is a fictional character, but there are people who have been through violent attacks. There are people who, look at Black Lives Matter, look at the Me Too movement, look at Time's Up. These are people who have had something done to them or done to somebody that they love, and they're saying, hey, how about you look to us for some answers? Why don't you let us tell our story and not look at what happened to us as something that damaged us, but something that gave us insight to a place nobody else wants to look. So I'm so behind the message of this film that perhaps maybe I get a little irrational when people try to say that it's not funny. So I got in an argument. I got in a debate with an unnamed internet film writer,
Rob Hunter,
where he was trying to tell me that this film betrays the triumph that Laurie Strode has at the end of the 1978 film. And to me, like, Laurie does not triumph in the first film. She survives. And, and she survives after seeing the corpses of her 3 closest friends. And, she was pursued in the house, and, she fought him off as best she could.
She was going to die in that closet.
But luckily, Loomis, who knew what Michael Myers was, shot 6 shots, and he fell out of the window and disappeared. Like, she did not triumph.
And him, I don't know if he's saying that because she lived, she triumphed, but
that's how he always interpreted it. I'm not here to question his interpretation, but what we shouldn't skip over is Lisa's fury when challenged on this film. Lisa truly loves Halloween 2018.
I really do. And to me, I think that horror films have evolved past the TNA gore fest, and I think that screenwriters Brad gave a kind of thing, and we do love to see a head stomp and whatever, but to me, what I will go to, I'm like Brian, I'm not really a horror movie person, but I am a good story person. And to me, I just think that the story of Laurie Strode, with the context of both the 1978 film and now with the 2018 film, is a good story about, somebody who really has been through shit and does ultimately triumph. Now, we do see Allison's hand on that knife. Who knows where the story is going to go next? Brad's like, nowhere.
No, I'll wait till my ugly.
Okay, so that's my ugly. How ugly?
All right.
Ugly I get when people try to tell me this movie is bad.
Brad.
Or not funny.
The ugly.
I think the ugly for me, it's twofold. To do what Brian loves to do, go twofold. One, it's very difficult to say, I want to make Laurie Strode's movie and still make a Halloween film. And I don't think this movie is perfect. I think it does struggle to balance all the stuff that we've been talking about. Balance the idea of trauma, balance the idea of victims, and balance some really badass looking slasher sequences, right? I think to really tell the story of Laurie Strode the way I want to see it, you'd have to practically remove Michael Myers from this film altogether. That he would very much be an outside force until he's not.
So a sequel to Halloween 3?
No. You would tell this story without following Michael at all.
Like Halloween 3?
No, he would still be a presence, though, is what I'm saying.
Oh.
Michael Myers would be a threat, but we are following Laurie Strode 100%.
But he's
the
in the
story.
movie.
Yes, he's
Okay.
in the
Oh,
movie.
okay. I thought you were
It's
saying
the exact
without.
same plot, but we don't go off to watch him kill the woman in the house. We don't go off and watch him, slaughter those cops. And it wouldn't be a slasher film. It would be very much a drama with a hard horror edge. And then the true ugliness of this movie is that it made a fuck ton of money. And Halloween 2 or 2020 or 2021 or whatever it's going to end up being called will be made. And in making a sequel to this film, it's going to be very difficult to continue the conversation around victimhood and trauma that this movie tries to have.
You don't think they'll try to continue that conversation with her daughter? I mean, because she was just witness to some heinous
Maybe.
shit, so.
I mean, what I would do is, Blumhouse just got into a bunch of trouble because of what
Yeah.
Jason Blum said about there not being enough female directors in the world, and especially female directors. They don't like horror movies, according to that one interview. And he faced the wrath of Twitter, and a lot of suggestions were thrown his way. And I think it was John Squires of Bloody Disgusting said for him to get really interested in a Halloween 2, why not let Jamie Lee Curtis direct?
Ooh.
That'd be dope.
She's directed some episodes of Scream Queen. She obviously has a lot of passion and love for this character and ideas of where this character should go. I would be very curious to see where she takes this story once that truck stops and the three Strodes get out of it.
Yeah.
How we interpret that knife in Allison's hand, the idea that, she's inherited the violence. That's not how I see that shot. I see it as she just had to kill her way out and she's going to have scars herself. But again, can they truly have that movie in the bones of a Halloween film, in the bones of a film that sells Halloween masks every year? I don't know. This comes very close, and I love so much about it, and that ending is so great, and Jamie Lee Curtis is so amazing that I can forgive the balance being off a little bit. But yeah, so I don't know.
All right. For my ugly, so there's a scene where everyone's having dinner. They're at a restaurant somewhere, and Jamie Lee Curtis comes in, and it's that scene where in stories where the person who everyone views as off because of something that's happened, like they're really on edge, and they're trying to converse with people, and people are it's not going well for that person, and it's making them look crazy, right? It's they're feeding into that narrative of something's not right with this person. And I didn't like that scene in this movie because it's just a testament to the film and Jamie Lee Curtis. Like, I didn't want people looking at Laurie that way. Like, I didn't want her. It's not a fault of the movie. It's just, to me, it was an ugly scene to watch. I'm not saying that it was purposely ugly. I'm just saying, like, it hurt that that's the reaction that she's gotten from those people around her, and only because of personal experience with that. Like, and so that actually, watching that in the moment, like, that angered me about the film. Not even just it was just happening to the character, and I was pissed off at the people around her, but like that was in the film, just because of how hurtful being in that moment, being on the receiving end of that is. You're trying to hold your shit together, and people can see it on you that you got some shit going on, but if you tell them what it is, they're not going to believe you anyway, or they're going to think something. You got to try to persuade them to see what you're seeing, and you don't even understand half the shit that you're processing. Like, so I don't know. It just took me to a very ugly personal place, and I just didn't like that in there. I don't like Laurie being looked at that way. I don't like personally being looked at like I'm crazy or whatever. And so I just know what that feels like, and it was just hard. It was just hurtful. It was just hard to watch.
What I love about that scene is what you don't see. You don't see the years and years and years of similar scenes.
Yeah.
So that when she shows up, immediately her daughter and her son-in-law just want her gone. They never invited her there.
Yeah.
The granddaughter went around her. And so when you hear the son-in-law in particular, Tim Huss, say, like, Laurie, don't do that. Go, like, the fact that he's so aggressive in that sequence, the son-in-law, you just can imagine all the hurt that he's witnessed through his wife's eyes.
And I think
similar sequences.
And I think what happened and why the humor in the film was such a big sticking point for me is because in this scene, I felt like, I don't know if the scene was purposefully trying to play that for laughs, like as how Laurie was acting in that scene, but there were people in the audience who kind of laughed at her because how she was behaving, right? And that is what made me angry about the film having humor in it, because it gave people a reason to laugh at her, and I didn't want her.
But again, this is where I feel like that humor is really, really working. When she first shows up and she goes for that wine glass, that is a joke in the sense that, like, oh, look, of course she went for the wine glass. What a wino. And audiences do respond to that with a laugh. But then what follows with that scene, and then the scene after that immediately, where it's Allison and Laurie on the side of the road, and Laurie is destroyed. I love how we go from this, oh God, Laurie, what a drunk, to this woman is broken.
Yeah, but for me, like, I feel like you don't have to have that Laurie is a drunk scene there to have the statement of this woman is broken.
I think you 100% need to have that sequence there so you see how outsiders witness her.
But that's how they treat her throughout the whole fucking movie.
Well, starting with that scene, starting with the conversations with Judy Greer's character and Andy's character.
Yeah. Well, for me, I just felt like...
But, like, to me, what it does is it takes an audience, puts them at one place, and then transports them from the laugh to the sorrow at the end of that scene.
Yeah.
To go from a journey like that, I think, is really great and something you don't experience often in these types of movies.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just, for me, it's just hurtful to laugh, because that her reaching for that glass, to me, that's not funny, because I know what the implications are.
But that's the film manipulating you.
Right. And I just don't I don't need that. I don't need to be manipulated about feeling sympathy for a victim. Like I don't need that. Like, she doesn't need that. A victim doesn't need manipulation for you to feel something. But I think slasher films need that. They need you to experience it that way, because we have turned slasher films into desensitized blood and guts stuff. And to take a film that has deteriorated over the course of 40 years into the trashiest of sequels, to then go, hey, hold on, there is a story here. There are people here. And that's why I'm saying, that's why when this happens, I get so angry, because I feel like in other areas, it's doing that very well. Again, with the relationship with the babysitter and the kid, with the relationship between Laurie and her daughter, all the other aspects I enjoy. It's just that one, because it just hit me in a personal space. That's all. But yeah, that's my ugly for Halloween. Listeners, if you've seen the film, which you should definitely check it out, especially because leading up to Halloween, because I don't know of any other horror movies that are coming out.
Suspiria.
There's also Attack the Block that you can watch on October 28th, leading up to Halloween. But definitely go check this movie out. Perfect film for the Halloween season, and it's a good film. You can hit us up if you've already seen it. You can hit us up at immortalized on social media to let us know your thoughts. And we can continue the discussion. Do not hit Lisa up if you did not like the film.
No,
only hit her up if
I'll get ugly on your ass.
You can follow Brian Young, the Turtle Dork, at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. B, what are you looking forward to this week?
Rewatching mid-90s. I'm excited to actually see. I've been listening to the soundtrack, which is only 4 songs, 13 minutes long.
Damn.
But it's the Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor's score, and it's beautiful. It's probably one of the best soundtracks of the year.
Damn. Okay.
So I'm excited to see that movie again. Yeah.
All right. Wife Dork is at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, at Sidewalk Siren on Instagram. She's also at Baked Dork on Twitter and Instagram, and she's at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Wife Dork, what are you looking forward to this week?
What am I looking forward to this week?
Are you still going through Gilmore Girls?
I
Yes?
am. I'm
Yes.
on season 2, episode 5. We've entered the Jess times.
Is these good times?
No, I'm not a Jess fan. I think that every girl has to have a bad boy. So I mean, I'm happy to go through that with Rory, but you know, I'm looking forward to the college years. I'm like the only person.
Gotcha. Okay. Brad Gullickson is at Mouthdork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Untapped. B, what are you looking forward to this week? Did Gilmore Girls rewatch as well?
I've been enjoying it casually from a distance.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking forward to, on Tuesday, I'm heading out to the Alamo Winchester because they're doing back-to-back screenings of the 78 Halloween and the 2018 one. Oh, that's right. So Lisa got to catch the 78 at the one Loudon, but I was unable to attend.
I got a full day to digest before diving in for that second helping
All right.
of Halloween.
What else is coming? Nothing's coming out.
Bohemian Rhapsody's coming
that's
out.
Right, that's right.
Oh gosh, something else I just saw. I was like, oh yeah, I kind of want to see that. I don't know. Nothing
Nothing
terribly exciting for me.
Okay.
Prospects coming out. What we were talking about that's on the horizon.
I need to see that.
Suspiria's on the horizon.
Yep.
But yeah.
All right.
Bodied is coming out.
That's right.
Yeah.
Check that out, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork, on all social medias. I'm looking forward to something.
More Halloween films. October movies.
Yeah. Finishing out October with a horror movie. So hopefully I'll get some gems in there. B, real quick, when you do these watches, are you focusing on movies that you've seen or movies that you haven't seen?
Movies that I haven't seen or haven't seen in a real long time, like Road Games.
Okay. All right. I'll do the same. So that's going to do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Stay tuned. We have an ItMod mini episode coming up where we spotlight Joe Cornish, the director of Attack the Block, which is screening at the Alamo Drafthouse Winchester on October 28th. You should come out and see it with us. And then on Friday, we have our Fistful of the 90s, so make sure you check that out as well.
And we should have an interview episode with Jim Cummings, director of Thunder Road, which Brian and Darren need to check out. They missed it at last weekend. One of my favorites of the year.
I will be dropping that episode on Wednesday along with that ItMod mini, ladies and gents. So that's going to do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week. And until next time.